Over the last 3 years being hired by online entrepreneurs running coaching and consulting businesses, if there is one truth that I have learned, it is that your business will only make as much money as you honestly believe that it will make. And as fluffy as this sounds, it is absolutely true. Because if you just look to history, the common denominator of all successful people that have ever lived on this earth has been this one thing. Every individual I have depicted here had levels of insane self-belief. Because here's the thing, if you hold yourself in such high esteem, it becomes borderline impossible to not actually take the steps towards realizing your goals. Because then acting in a way that would cause any sort of different outcome would start to feel out of sync with reality. You would feel like you are not yourself. You will have like an existential dread moment. When you have that level of self-esteem and self-image, doing things that hold you back becomes way worse than it otherwise would be. So why am I telling you this? Because I have seen in the people I've worked with and also in myself that we tend to suffer with these things called limiting beliefs. The simplest definition of this is it's anything that you think or feel that will stand in the way between you taking action and subsequently realizing your goal. Because when you're operating from this place of limitation mentally, movement becomes way more difficult and more exhausting. You're running around with a manacle and a weighted ball, and it's like, obviously moving is difficult, you feel very constricted, and also because of the immense weight of that limitation, it becomes more and more exhausting. So that kind of begs the question, okay, well, we're operating from this place of limitation. What the hell am I supposed to do about that? Do you think that these guys gave up? Absolutely not. Otherwise, we would not know their names in history. They still made the jump. They were able to reprogram their mind and beliefs to develop such a high sense of self-worth, as I was saying before. When you have a high sense of self-worth, you are going to have a high sense of agency. You are going to take action, you are going to do the things, and you are going to get the goals realized. There are several different ways that we can look at doing this. First of all, we have the hustle bros and bizop gurus angle. This goes a little bit like this. Just tell yourself that what you do is valuable and just work harder as a result. That is going to basically reprogram your brain to act as this person that's going to be realizing your goals and become successful. Then we have the fruity, kind of just weirdo spiritual people, okay? What do they say? Well, they say you gotta meditate for like 7 hours and then write 9,000 different affirmations. I don't have time for this. Also, are you telling me that if I just sit there and do this stuff, like that's gonna create a change in the real world for me? I don't think so. The other angle that we have is the just discipline maxers. And they basically just say this: just do it, your brain just isn't real. Just don't do any inner work at all, it's a waste of time. Just take action. Doesn't matter what operating system you're running on, just take action. Thing is, eventually, if you're pushing your limits so much because you've not done any inner work, you'll probably malfunction. So when I was trying to look into how to deal with limiting beliefs for myself and for the people I was working with, I didn't like any of these angles. I didn't think that they were really particularly helpful. So let me show you a better way. This is a way that I have not seen talked about on the internet before. It's so freaking simple. It's so easy, so effective. Wow, I'm really using all the new easy, safe, big here, aren't I? I call this technique search and destroy. This, I think, is an apt name to describe the quick exercise that we're about to do. And this is how you do it. First of all, we start with just grab a journal, basically, or just grab any piece of paper. And what you're going to do is you're going to just kind of think over the goals that you have in your mind. So that might be making X amount of sales in a month. This may be increasing your conversion rate. This may be completing this product development so we can roll this thing out. That may be just like breaking through the revenue ceiling that you're at right now. Also just reflect on, okay, what specific actions is it that I need to take to actually get to this end goal? And after you understand what it is that you need to do, well, you're going to identify the thought patterns that are stopping you from making those plays. 9 times out of 10 with us entrepreneurial folk, it's never an information problem. There's so much information out there. We know what we need to do. We just don't think that we can do it for whatever reason. After you've identified those in writing, well, you challenge them and you forcibly remove them. Just like that, on that piece of paper. You get up then and you're just like, wow, okay, I've identified the problems. I've told myself, okay, well, these are not legitimate problems. They are full of shit and we can just move on. That's basically it. That's all you need to do. Anytime you feel burdened by some sort of thought patterns that are in your head and stopping you from making plays that you know you need to make to break that revenue ceiling, make more sales, fix that product, then do this. Deadass, this is all you need to do. If you want to click off the video now, feel free. But if you want to actually get a deeper insight into why this works, then stay with me for the next few minutes and we'll go ahead and get right into that. Here is what you need to understand about this. You have more power over yourself than you think. Placebo effect is literally like a great example of this. So essentially, you can basically be given a pill and it's going to be described as, okay, this is going to do this for you. You will take it and it will do that thing. The massive thing here to note is that the pill was never designed to do anything. That is your brain literally tricking itself into experiencing a physical change. But all you've done is just like digested air and something has happened. That's insane, all through the power of the mind. And it doesn't just stop at something like placebo. There's tons and tons of different instances of the brain just being able to do things that are insane and directly influence either your physical state or your reality. And so with that power, massive change can literally just be one conscious decision away. Because I know that everybody likes to say this, they like to say fake it till you make it. But this is incomplete advice. And I'll tell you exactly why right now. You do not need to be pretending to be somebody that you already are. Now what the hell do I mean by that? I imagine I've probably got you looking like this. You're just like, this man is speaking in riddles. What is he talking about? If you have imagined at any point this ideal self, so essentially the person of you that has achieved the goal, okay, that version of you literally already exists in your mind. You've imagined it, you've basically thought it into existence in here. You can just switch from being the person that you are now to this new self. This self that runs by different rules. This self that only takes certain actions. This self that is naturally and easily going to be able to achieve the goals that you have set out for yourself. So we've got the greatest diagram ever to basically show you in a really simple way. This is you, and this is your mindscape. We can see that the old self, so the you that does stupid shit basically, that is not conducive to your goals, is running the show. And because of that, you're just going to basically take mid-actions, and the reality around you is not going to go the way that you want. And this is because the ideal self, like I said, it already exists. You've created it by thinking it up in your brain. So they are back here, but it doesn't have any control because you've left these blocks in the way. So you can just let this kind of old self basically just continue to wreak havoc, and this is the output because you're not giving this the control. But like I said, your brain is powerful. You can make one conscious decision and give this ideal self control. When you do this, you will see what happens. You can destroy this block. The old self basically just gets killed. And now the ideal self is able to move forward, flow forward, and now run the show. And that's when you're going to get the best actions coming out. You're going to actually have reality unfold the way that you want. You're going to actually find it so easy to be motivated, so easy to take the actions towards your goals. It just becomes effortless because this is now who's in charge. And so I quite like this analogy. Your ideal self, authentic self, whatever it is. And by the way, side note, authentic self is just whatever the hell that you want it to be. If you feel like you want to be something else, then that is basically your authentic self, because if you were that person, you'd feel more comfortable. That's authenticity, right? So it's really that simple. People get into identity crises for no reason. But your ideal self can basically flow like this beautiful river here out to the front. It can just flow because this block is no longer in the way. And like I was saying, action then becomes easy because you are now the person that acts. We act according to something called our intuition, which if you break down the word etymologically, you see that intuition basically just means internal, tuition, teaching, guidance. So you basically just live by your inner voice. Like, that's how you decide what actions to take. You're going to stop doing the things that hold you back because, quite simply, you'll be able to look at these kind of whatever bad habits or inaction, and naturally you're just going to say, well, that's not me, that's not my problems. I don't deal with these things as problems because my new self is not the kind of person that acts in that way. And that's completely true, because you made that conscious decision to shift gears. So now that action is so easy because you are the person who acts. Action is the only thing that stands between status quo and your desired outcome, okay? We already know this. It's just simple. You know, you do something X amount of times and an output gets generated. So that's great and all, but of course, do not be deceived. If you have dealt with these limiting beliefs, the odds are this is what's going to happen. They are going to reanimate like zombies and try and come back to you. Now, I don't really know why this is, to be honest. And a great analogy for this is basically interpreting beliefs and ideas as entities in and of themselves. So if you think about what entities are, any form of life on any plane of existence is naturally going to be trying to self-preserve. But you don't need to be deceived because you already won, okay? If these entities are going to be trying to convince you that you can't exist without them, well, you already won. You don't need to give in to these things. You're going to be tempted to go back to your old ways sometimes, but you already won. It's very similar to how it's depicted in religious frameworks where, you know, you kind of have the evil one and they go, oh, I'm so sneaky and hard to resist and I'm always going to tempt you to do things. But like the good side of things, so, you know, God, well, technically already won, okay? So essentially, the only way that the evil thing would have any power is if you give it. If you mess up, then you don't despair and think, man, this is so difficult to deal with. No, because it doesn't have to have power if you don't give it power. This is the strength that you have. So by that conscious decision to change, you already won. Now, when you do ever kind of feel a bit like these beliefs, these old ways of living and being, try and get back to you and try and make you do things how you used to be and basically sabotage yourself because for some reason this just happens, like whether it be because of your own fault or just the environment around you, you'll find that there's always going to be things trying to trip you up and stop you from moving towards a goal. I don't know why this is, but here is a really good practice that I developed when I started dealing with that, and it's really helped me. So if you've ever done something like red-blue breathing or non-sleep deep rest, if you've ever done a visualization-based exercise, you'll know the power in what I'm about to recommend to you. Surprisingly, if we just visualize something happening, it can basically inspire a total mental change. Anytime I feel like I am going to go back into doing stuff that are not conducive to the person I want to be, I basically imagine pulling a plug. So essentially it just goes bang, just in my mind. That helps me sort of remember, okay, I'm no longer chipped into this old way. I'm not having any sort of further flow or messaging coming from that old intuition anymore because I'm connected to something new. So just that simple 3-second unplug, just imagining that in my brain, helps tremendously. You can also supplement this with things like if you just click your fingers. Like that physical action is like a physical assertion of power. Roman emperors used to do adlocution, which is they used to hold their hands up like this with their fingers out, and you'll see this in the statues and that, and it was like a physical assertion of power over the people, over the realm of Roma. You can also do things like speak verbally as well. That's also another effective thing that I've heard people have had a lot of success with. I do swear that like everyone that I've spoken to that's also an entrepreneur, we do just seem to like talk to ourselves and have like monologues like Shakespearean characters, and that just seems to be a common trait between us all. I think we're all just a bit insane, to be honest. Fantastic for just getting yourself back on track whenever you feel like you're slipping, and you just kind of remind yourself, and you do this enough times and it will just become normal. You do this enough times, you remind yourself, I made a conscious decision. I decided that I was going to become someone new. I am someone new. I don't act like this. I act like this so I can achieve my goals. That is how I roll. You really can just assert power over yourself. You have insane amounts of strength just in here that you can just click a finger and have stuff change. If you start looking at the world like this, everything becomes effortless. It sounds delusional, it sounds ridiculous, but try it and we'll see what happens. You can really simply just do things. There does not need to have to be all these conditions that you need to meet, all of these rules that you have to stick to try and create a change in your life and in the world, in your business. It really just can be this simple. A Okay, thanks so much for reaching it to the end. I hope you found this really, really helpful. Give these techniques a try, and if you want some help in reaching these goals that you have for yourself, so whether that be breaking through a revenue ceiling, whether or not that be improving your conversion rate, whether or not that be working on getting that improved product solution, whatever it is that you're doing out, well, be sure to go ahead and check the link in the description. Apply to work with me. Thank you again, and I'll see you in the next video.